makes him seem like this narcissistic Paris Hilton dude.
Which is completely not like him
Not like him at all. I had no idea what I wanted to do for a living, but I knew it wasn't acting. But then my brother thought I would love it. I started doing it, and I did love it. And so it's never, I don't know, it's never really been, the only thing that I learned growing up on sets was how the craft service was. I never really hung around for the acting part of it.
At some point, and this is when my 2-year-old son just enters frame like a horror, and it's 11:30 at night. This kid should be out cold. And he says something indecipherable, 2-year-olds. And I say, I'm sending a video to Bill. Tell Bill to do the interview. He looks right at the camera and he goes, do the interview, Bill. And I said, say no to a kid like that, and I don't know what kind of monster you are.
Hey besties, welcome back to my channel. Blake Lively's attorneys just got humiliated in court, and it was hysterical because they showed up for a hearing that had literally nothing to do with them. If you remember last week, they actually filed a supplemental response to Stephanie Jones' motion to compel that had nothing to do with her too, and Wayfarer had to tell the court, this has nothing to do with Blake Lively. Well, similarly, Blake Lively's attorneys, our favorite Kristen Bender, who loves to clog the docket with motions to compel, showed up to a hearing that had nothing to do with her in a case that's unrelated to her, beyond the fact that her company, Van Zandt Inc., is roped into that case because Stephanie Jones is being sued by Jen Abel for dumping the contents of her phone over to Blake and accessing her computer illegally. That's the allegation. Now, Stephanie is not She's no longer trying to get this case thrown out. Stephanie Jones just filed a response to Jen Abel, and so she's not trying to have Jen's countersuit thrown out anymore. Meaning, as of now, there are competing cases. One from Jones Works against Jen Abel, Melissa Nathan, and Baldoni and Wayfarer, and then Jen Abel against Stephanie Jones, and then Wayfarer against Stephanie Jones for breach of contract. So apparently, Blake Lively's attorneys show up, and the hearing was kind of a mess, and it was amazing listening to Kristen Thaler, who's my favorite incompetent attorney involved in this case. Kristen once sent me a cease and desist, and she, with a straight face, wrote in the cease and desist that calling Stephanie Jones ruthless and cutthroat was defamation. I just didn't realize that hyperbolic opinion was defamation. It's very similar to this website that they're fighting about, which if you have an opinion about someone, you can post that opinion. But if you're Stephanie Jones, you sue people for having an opinion, or you have their attorneys sent letters with trumped up charges. And that was one of the things that website said, is that Stephanie Jones is known to use legal threats with trumped up charges. So really, at the heart of this dispute, it's Stephanie Jones is crying to the judge about a website that might have been truthful about clients that don't like her, that were sharing their experiences about why they didn't like her because of what she was doing to them, and ex-employees. And then an article that was published by Business Insider where the journalist said they spoke to over 40 people. So if 40 people have the same experience and share the same reservations or issues with Stephanie Jones, about Stephanie Jones, you would think that maybe Stephanie would get the hint. But apparently all 40 of these people are lying, and it's defamation. So today's hearing was about this website that she claims was created that was defamatory. All right, so to bring you up to speed about what the evidence suggests, in case you haven't been following this case, it's already been revealed that through the Facebook subpoena, where Stephanie Jones subpoenaed Meta along with Pinterest and I think Twitter for records related to the social media of like Stephanie Jones leaks or Stephanie Jones sucks. I can't remember. But those came back to being attached to Katie Case. Then they did a search for the website to find out who had registered the website. Well, it turns out that the person that registered the website used another employee's name at JonesWorks, but they used another person's name maliciously because that person filed some sort of declaration or something claiming they didn't do that. And Katie Case has already testified that she wrote the copy for this. She's the one that published it. So at this point, we are not sure who owns the website, but we do know that they filed also a subpoena with Meta and with Pinterest to get the owners of the Stephanie Jones leaks like handles for the Facebook and Pinterest, and those came back to Katie Case and Brianna Koslow. So the evidence thus far produced shows that Katie created the Facebook page, Katie created the social media accounts, like the Facebook and the Pinterest didn't have anything on it. The Twitter was active and then it got deleted or it got banned and the website is down. So Katie has been kind of exposed as the person that created all of this. Katie Case used to work for JonesWorks and then she went to work with Tag, which is with Melissa Nathan. Okay. She worked with JonesWorks, I don't know, for a couple years. She doesn't like Stephanie Jones at all. And the evidence they've have so far shows that Case is creating all of this stuff. Okay. So that's not disputed. What is disputed is that Katie Case claims that Melissa Nathan told her what to post on the website. She's also claiming that through her sworn deposition testimony that they didn't exchange any information about it. They simply talked about it on the phone. And that she might have sent Melissa a copy of the draft of the copy that she published on the website. So Melissa, since this lawsuit has been filed, has denied that she had anything to do with the Stephanie Jones website, which was what was Kevin Fritz pointed out in the case at the hearing today. And then he also pointed out that because Stephanie had received information about who created the website and Meta sent the information about who created the social medias, she had reason to believe that this was all created by Katie Case. But now Katie Case is saying, yes, I did these things, but I didn't do them for myself. I did them for Melissa Nathan. And Melissa Nathan has testified and said she did not have anything to do with it at all. Okay. So Stephanie Jones's attorneys are claiming that they only found out through the deposition that Melissa would deny that she had anything to do with this, even though she responded with her answer that she denied it. And then they didn't realize that there would be a discrepancy between Katie Case's testimony claiming that Melissa is the one that ordered this to be done, or that it was and Melissa basically denying it and essentially saying, no, I think Katie's lying. And she claims that she's lying because she's afraid of Stephanie Jones. And one would believe that she's doesn't want to become a defendant in this lawsuit. So she would have reason to possibly point the finger at Melissa Nathan. So the hearing was an interesting one because Blake Lively's attorneys showed up and they were there for no reason. None of this had anything to do with them. They're not involved in that lawsuit outside of the Van Zandt action, like being a part of the case where Abel is suing Jones. But Blake has nothing to do with this case. And the judge was all like, we're not going to let you talk, Miss Bender. You're not a party to this, so we're not going to talk to you. So Blake's attorneys showed up and they were there obviously to back up Jones because that backup got shut down by the judge because the judge was like, you don't have anything to do with this. So goodbye. So then Kristen Taylor basically is like running in circles trying to justify why she's doing this late motion to compel. And they're talking in circles and she has a lot of excuses for why this is relevant. She's pointing all these discrepancies out. And Kevin Fritz was like trying to argue back that, this whole thing is a late, it's untimely. And I don't know what the judge is going to rule, but I will say that when the judge was talking to Kevin Fritz, who was representing Wayfarer, he did say like, well, how are you prejudiced by Katie's attorneys complying with this late issued subpoena? And Fritz was like, well, Mr. Lyman, Judge Lyman, if you recall, we sought an extension of time before the deadline for a deposition for Taylor Swift, and you denied it because you said that it was our fault for not doing our due diligence and getting this information and scheduling the deposition beforehand. So you shut down our deposition. So in this case, it would be similar as they should have known that they could have asked for these documents if they thought that they existed and they knew that there was this discrepancy. So they kind of threw back it into the face of the judge that, like, if you're going to be consistent here and you're going to let this person go outside of the bounds of discovery and you didn't let us, that's not fair, judge. So that was like the spiciest part of the that was the spiciest part. But then also, Katie Case's attorneys get on, and it's very clear that they do not like Melissa Nathan anymore. And they are not on Melissa Nathan's side. But I don't think that they're actually on Jonesworks' side either. I think she's in self-preservation mode, right? I think she's trying to avoid being dragged into this as a defendant. And Fritz pointed that out, that she very well could be trying to avoid being added as a defendant. And Thaler was like, well, made that clear too, which was Jones's attorneys, that, this could help avoid adding Katie as a defendant if we can prove this. Now, the time to amend their lawsuit has since passed, so it's just sort of weird that they would make these claims, but what do I know? So at the end of the day, what no one's talking about is what they're really fighting about. Scooter Braun, okay? It doesn't make a lot of sense for Stephanie to be going this hard against Tag over a website, right? It doesn't make any sense, right? Now, there's been testimony and there's been innuendo that this website was created for a former client of Jonesworks, a former client who happens to be the owner of Tag. His name is Scooter Braun, okay? So here's the story. Scooter Braun was the client of Stephanie Jones personally. So Jones represented him personally, not his businesses, just him personally for years. And she was his publicist when he was feuding with Taylor Swift and fighting over the Masters. And I was told that during that period of time, leading up to him forming Tag, which he formed last year, he had found out that Stephanie Jones was brigading Taylor Swift's social media and Reddit's and other social media and posting bot comments, but they were actual real people. So, like, she was allegedly using interns to brigade and post negative comments about Taylor Swift just to harass her for the sake of harassing her, just to be mean for Scooter, even though Scooter didn't ask Jones to do that. That's what I was told. So he finds out about it, and he doesn't want anything to do with Jones anymore. And so he works his way to get out of his contract with Jones. And then he decides he's going to start his own PR firm, but he doesn't want his firm to be like his face to be with the firm. And so what he does is he sets up Tag, and Melissa Nathan is the president, but his company is a managing member of the business. So one of his businesses is the financial backer of Tag. He's the owner, he's the boss, he's the money maker, he's the money man here, okay? And so he's the one that directs them and tells them what to do. And he's the one that told them, Tag, that they were going to work with Jen Abel on the Baldoni case, even though they didn't want to work with Jonesworks and he didn't want to work with Jonesworks, but they wanted to work with Melissa Nathan, okay? So Scooter is the financial backer of Tag. He's not being sued by anyone. Isn't that weird? Even though it's his company. The women in his company are being sued, but not him. And Stephanie won't dare sue him because apparently she still wants him as a client. But it seems like she's not willing to accept the fact that maybe it's Scooter that's making these directions. And instead, she wants to make it like Melissa's the nefarious one. That's my opinion, to create some sort of division maybe between Scooter and Melissa. But personally, it very well could have been Scooter that told Katie to do it. And it could have been Melissa relaying a message, although Melissa says she has nothing to do with it. I don't know anything about these websites. I also know that just last week, Melissa Nathan signed a sworn declaration that she didn't have anything to do with the websites that were created against Amanda Ghost in the Rebel Wilson lawsuits. If you're not following me on Instagram, I've kind of been covering the Rebel Wilson case over there. Rebel actually shared some of my posts in her stories. So thank you, Rebel. But Nathan has denied she was involved in those websites too. So someone is making websites and they're derogatory towards the people, although the best defense to defamation is the truth. So the truth is Stephanie should be suing Scooter, right? But she's not. Instead, she's trying to ruin his PR company, and she's going after Scooter's employees because he's the financial backer, and Scooter's not involved in any of this, which kind of feels like hanging your ladies out to dry, if I'm being honest. And Katie's trying to pin this on Melissa. Melissa's saying she didn't do it. And what if it was Scooter? What if Scooter's the one that told her to make the website? Or what if it was The Rock or one of the millions of clients that hate Stephanie Jones that asked her to make the website? Maybe Katie Case just made the website regardless. And was the website actually defamatory if it shares opinions that are of what their experience was working for her? I don't know. But I do know that the real fight here is not about Melissa Nathan. It's retribution for Scooter leaving Stephanie Jones, opening a competing firm with Melissa Nathan, and then that firm, Scooter, allegedly has employees going after Stephanie Jones. Stephanie's really mad at Scooter. Melissa is just the target, and so is Katie Case. And why won't she sue Scooter? Why doesn't Scooter's name get brought up? Why isn't she suing the managing member of Scooter's company that manages Tag? It's just none of it makes sense. And I feel like it's just a way to attack the person that she views as her competitor that she thinks stole Scooter from her. It's all about Scooter. Imagine being this vindictive over a man who goes by the name Scooter. And then also, I don't know who wants these dumb websites, but they're really dumb. And I think if you're making websites like this because you're mad at someone, that's just dumb. Just do something else. I'm not saying that Tag had anything to do with it, but if Katie created it or whoever created it, like there's a million things you can do with your time. These kinds of websites just don't really do a whole lot. And they remind me of like when Scientology would make websites against like Leah Remini, like she's evil. Not saying that the website about Stephanie Jones is defamatory because I think a lot of what was on that website is actually true. So, long story short, they're fighting about Scooter Braun. Stephanie wants Scooter back. Stephanie views Melissa as stealing Scooter. Is in bed now with Melissa because he's funding this PR company. And so now she's just trying to destroy the company that she views as her rival and claiming that they're like defaming her when really a mirror might do for Stephanie Jones. So Stephanie's attorneys are fighting because they want Katie to hand over this evidence that proves Melissa was behind it. I don't know that such evidence even exists. But there's competing testimony, and at trial, that comes down to jury. So the jury gets to decide who they believe is more credible. And to date, there's been no discovery that has proven that Melissa Nathan had anything to do with the website. It's all been linked to Katie and Brianna Castle, who isn't denying it. So I don't know what to say, but I do say that Blake Lively's attempt to like get in with this to like back up Jones didn't work. The judge didn't rule on it. He is taking it under advisement. The arguments that Toller made about how she needs this to prove this, I thought sounded really lame. I think Kristen sounded unprepared. She also started accusing them of deleting evidence, but then when the judge asked her if she could prove what she was saying or if she could show like where this spoliation motion was, she couldn't reference it. And it had to do with something in the other case, not this case. And Kevin Fritz had to remind the judge that there's been no motions for spoliation in their current case that they were talking about, the Jones versus Wayfarer case and Jones versus Nathan and Abel. And that there's been no allegation that any evidence has been deleted. So she was just like throwing stuff at a wall. And knowing Judge Lyman, he'll probably allow Stephanie to have this subpoena and get this evidence that doesn't exist and further create the circus that is this case. And that's the tea today. If there's any wonder if Blake and Stephanie continue to conspire together, the answer is yes. Yes, they do. Yes. Blake and Stephanie are working in tandem. They're filing ridiculous motions. They're trying to help one another along the way. And the truth is that Stephanie's already possibly on the hook for damages because she's the one that was the one that went after Blake. Jonesworks. If a smear campaign really happened, it was Jonesworks that implemented it. And Stephanie Jones is the owner of Jones. So what are your thoughts about this? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. Make sure to subscribe to my channel if you haven't subscribed and click the bell so you never miss a video. Thanks so much for watching. Bye, besties.